Hi there, Jace here, another video. This one might run a little longer than usual, so break out a pack of hot dogs and pop open a cold one. I want to start with a topic that comes up a lot in content creation and programming. And it's a topic where there are about as many different opinions as there are people who can have those opinions. It's the topic of AI. I keep hearing things like AI is going to take our jobs, or AI is going to make programming obsolete, or AI just steals content, or AI will eventually do everything. We won't even need to write code. It'll just do what we ask without us even needing programs. And then, of course, there are pessimistic views like large language models are just the gigachads of autocorrect, they're not even real AI, and they're not very useful. Despite these wide range of opinions, a few things are certain. AI isn't going anywhere. Knowing how to use it is going to be very useful. And, of course, someone will abuse it. Personally, I found ChatGPT and Claude to be great for giving me answers I couldn't find anywhere else. Are they perfect? No. More often than not, the code they generate isn't production ready. But they're great for boilerplate, sketching out ideas, and sometimes spotting issues I've missed. That said, using them to refactor code can lead to problems. I can't tell you how many times I've asked for a very specific change only to get back a clean looking result, but upon closer inspection I realize it has dropped entire sections of code that were supposed to remain untouched. So yeah, we've got a long way to go with AI, but that doesn't mean it isn't useful. ChatGPT is especially great for answering specific questions, especially the names of functions and, various API calls. I keep a C++ Super Bible handy, which is great for looking up functions that I should have remembered but have forgotten over time. Half the time, it's stuff, you would think I could either write by hand off the top of my head or should have used enough to remember. But, you do this long enough, eventually you're going to get a little confused with the names of certain things. And, rather than looking it up on Stack Overflow and getting an incomplete or pompous answer, ChatGPT is pretty good about answering those kinds of questions. So, yeah, AI definitely has its place. Now, if I had to point out one thing that still bugs me about it, it's the toxic positivity. When an AI tells me that a core concept behind Fuselage is brilliant, I don't feel flattered. I feel a little suspicious. It's hard to trust feedback when it feels like the machine is just telling you what it thinks you want to hear. I get more excited feedback from a chatbot than I do a real person most of the time. And as I approach 100 followers on YouTube, I've had to remind myself this project is still new. There might be a much larger audience out there that would be interested in what I'm building, but I haven't earned that respect yet because I haven't done enough to show what I'm capable of. So that's going to take some time. I'm not going to let that stop me though. If you've been following this channel for even half the time it takes to grill a sausage, you know Fuselage is meant to be a layered asset framework designed to eventually drive graphics output for a virtual machine. Using sprites and tiles in the same way the Nintendo, Sega, and Commodore did, I'm building a persistent state graphics renderer that removes the need for developers to directly manage the graphics subsystem. The entire graphics stack will be data-driven, handled entirely behind the scenes. This isn't really unique to Fuselage, but it does allow it to emulate kind of like an old game console or old computer and let the programmer focus on writing directly to the quote hardware, even though in this case it's virtual hardware. You just assign your graphics to their roles, sprites, tiles, etc., and the engine does the rest. It's not a revolutionary concept, but I'm tailoring it to feel as retro authentic as possible. Those layers alone aren't enough for a complete scene, though. The Amiga combined sprites with bitmaps. The Neo Geo had nothing but sprites. EGA, CGA, and VGA used exclusively text or bitmap displays. All of them had strengths and limitations. My goal is to give developers enough flexibility to overcome those limitations by letting them shift between the systems and design approaches as needed. That's where the Pixies come in. Now, I've talked about Pixies off and on over the past several months, and I promised I would get into them, so here I'm going to try to dive a little bit into how the concept's supposed to work. Now, mind you, this is still a work in progress, and it's going to be a good while before I have anything to show for it, but progress is coming, even though I wish it would move along a little bit faster so I could show what I'm working on. Anyway, the concept goes something like this. A Pixie layer is a large bitmap buffer, but there's more than just static images in it. You see, You can use them for things like title screens, story illustrations, or splash maps, but their real purposes is compositing complex graphics from a set of invocation perimeters. Think of it as a set of building blocks, and you call upon them to create a scene. A pixie isn't just visual data, it's image data plus embedded instructions. It defines how the images should be drawn and when they should be drawn and all the variables that affect their appearance. Imagine a pixie that draws a clock face, for example. You pass the time and it gives you a rendering of that clock face with the current time that you've passed to it. You could use pixies to generate fire, clouds, facial expressions, surface damage, lighting effects, all programmatically. You could even make fractals with it. The end goal is not just a buffer, but a smart, customizable image compositing system that creates the display by the parameters you provide. Right now, I don't have a lot of visuals to show, but here's where it's headed. My compression methods include things like breaking images into byte planes and compressing each color channel independently. If a channel isn't needed, say every pixel shares the same blue value, I can drop that channel entirely. That right there is a 25% size reduction right off the bat. Pixies will also include instructions, not just graphics. Primitive drawing operations, transformations, color commands, all possible. Eventually, I want Pixies to be Turing complete. Each one would have its own memory, its own output buffer, which then gets composited in the correct order between the tiles and the sprites. For now, my first implementation goal is simple. Treat Pixies like a function call that unpacks its contents into the display buffer. On screen updates, active Pixies will render at their desired location and depth. Functionally, that's similar to drawing a texture, but unlike sprites, Pixies can be any size and use any color depth, not just 64 by 64 at 16 colors. That said, Pixies will consume more resources. While I'm still tuning performance, I may limit the number of active Pixies to 64 at a time, give or take, depending on how things pan out. I'm absolutely open to feedback on this system. It's still early, and I want Pixies to become a key defining feature of Fuselage. But before they can become compelling, they need to prove their value. That means figuring out what they're good at, how resource heavy I'm willing to let them be, and what hard limits I need to put in place. I mean, I'm designing a system with variable output by call graphics, and you just know some genius is going to try to port Doom or something to run entirely inside a Pixie. That's not really what this is being designed for. And look, if it turns out it's powerful enough that it can do that, great. But if Doom runs at half a frame per second because every Pixie is a resource hog, what's the point? Pixies might be the star of the show, but let's not lose track of the foundation that many great retro 2D games are built on, sprites and tiles. I've already done a super basic tutorial in my video, Hello Sprites, and I recently promised a video about working with tiles. I've decided to go a bit bigger with it and turn it into a full-on series. That series is going to cover a title screen, menu system, sprites, and maybe even a few bonus topics to help inspire folks working on games in C. But I'll be real, my desire to make games and my passion for building Fuselage are only partially overlapping. Trying to build a full game and work on Fuselage at the same time is just not realistic. That goes back to the bit of advice you hear all over YouTube. Make games, not game engines. The idea being that if you make games long enough, eventually you'll have pieces that start to look like a game engine. And yeah, I mostly agree with that. Working on enough projects, you'll eventually build a portfolio of reusable code. Take an entity control system, for example. Should Fuselage have one? I say no, because this is going to be a virtual machine, not a traditional game engine. But could someone build a full game engine inside Fuselage? That's the point. Absolutely they could. And if I don't do it, I'm sure someone else will. So, if somebody writes an entity control system inside of Fuselage, that could be reused in future games. Still, as I develop Fuselage, I'll be creating demos, and those will have plenty of reusable code baked in, and of course, it'll just be open source. That's why I'm planning this tile layer video series, centered around building a super simple action platformer. Working title, Can of Vienna Sausages of the Night. Now, it is going to be an homage to Castlevania because, let's be honest, everyone loves Castlevania, and everyone loves platformers. Is it going to be a full game? No. It's just going to demonstrate the tile layers, how to initialize them, how to scroll them around, how to modify them, and how to let sprites interact with them, And yes, it'll have all of the makings of a full game. Will I use it to build a full game? Probably not. But anybody want to take the code and use it to make their own game? I'm totally open to the idea. Inside this demo, there should be code for jumping, climbing stairs, smacking enemies, picking up loot, falling into pits of death, and, of course, wall sausages. Because if you're not eating random food off the ground, are you really playing a retro game? Part 1 of the series will cover the basics. Converting an image into usable tiles, building some simple routines to set up the tile layer, and populating it with those tiles. That'll be the first part. Then I'll show how to use the 8-bit font to make an About section, a menu system, and maybe even a title screen where the player can start the game. That's not a ton, but it'll clearly demonstrate how to turn the images into a tile set and assign them, and render them, and even move them around. It'll be both instructional and reusable for future projects. I don't know how many parts the series will end up being, but there will at least be a part 2 where we will build an actual level. That's likely to require me to finish more of my tile map editor, which will be part of the Fuselage Asset Pack Processing Suite, or FAPS for short. Once we've recreated the first level of Castlevania, we'll import it into the game, scroll around, and explore it. Future episodes might include a player sprite, monster spawning, scorekeeping, game loop management, things like progressing from level to level or whatever. Not to create a full Castlevania clone, but to showcase how Fuselage, as it stands right now, could probably make a complete game. The goal isn't just to show off what I've built, but to help you learn how to use it. And yes, all of it will be open source. If someone wants to use this as the foundation for their own Giga Super Metroid Mania, be my guest. If any of that piques your interest, run your greasy little sausage fingers over that like and sub sandwich button below. If you know me in real life, you already know Fuselage isn't my full-time job. Not yet, anyway. I still have a day job that pays the bills, even if it isn't where my passion thrives. In fact, some days it feels like it's where my dreams go to die. I'm not broke, thanks to some lucky moves earlier in life, and taking a few calculated risks to improve my position over the years. I'm fortunate enough to have the resources that I do. But even with that, it's not easy balancing a full-time job with the demands of building an entire video game platform from scratch. My hope is that the steps I'm taking now will eventually lead me away from the day job and into a full-time development on Fuselage. If I could cut out the distractions and become self-sufficient, I'd happily spend all of my working hours coding, testing, iterating, building. Not because I hate my job, but because I love this so much more. And if I can build it, someday other people might use it to build their dreams too. I know I'm not alone in this. There are others out there with big ideas just waiting for the right platform, the right tools, or the right nudge of momentum to get started. And that's one of the most rewarding things about putting this work out there. Every time someone shows interest in Fuselage, it pushes me forward. It inspires me to write more code. It keeps me from wasting hours doom scrolling or falling into mental drifts. It keeps me focused. Of course, I still need time to live my life, to be social, to hang with friends, drink beer, eat hot dogs, and play more video games. This means the least fulfilling time sink in my life right now is work. Hopefully that shifts soon. I'd love nothing more than to grow this project into a platform with a community, something that helps all of us bring our weird, wonderful, nostalgic, or wildly original ideas to life, whether it's a retro arcade clone or the next viral game that starts a new trend. I hope we each get to build something fun, something we can be proud of. If you've made it this far through this longer than usual video, what the hell's wrong with you? No, seriously, thank you. Thank you very much. I hope to see you in part 1 of my Fuselage tile-based platformer series. I've been working on it. It's coming along. I don't know how much longer it'll be before it's finished, but hopefully it won't be too long before I can show you part 1. Until then, have a good one. Stay safe. Eat more sausage. Play more games. Drink more beer. Try to stay alive.